Hey guys, hope you are all doing well today. So we have a matchup between the Empire going up against the forces of Norsca. I believe the Empire is being commanded by Nameless Order and the Norscans by Vicious Satsuma. I could have that mixed up, but we'll check it out in the end screen. So for the forces of the Empire, we have some swordsmen and spearmen making up the front line, though they have gone with a huge mobility corps in the form of 4 pistoliers. Looks like 4 pistoliers, a unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun, along with some Demigryph Knights with halberds, and on the left flank we have some more Knights of the Blazing Sun. Their fire damage in this battle is very, very important since Skinwolves, Throg, and many other important aspects of the Norscan armies in general do have vulnerabilities to fire, but you don't see Throg in this matchup. There are still some Skinwolves, so these Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to be quite deadly against the forces of Norsca. We have a Jade Wizard bring some healing to play. Let's see, so we have Regrowth and Earthblood, and we have Karl Franz himself in disguise, the Great Emperor, bringing Stand Your Ground, Foe Seeker, Reikland Runefang, and Galmaraz, the usual kit. So pretty powerful Empire army. It's going to be quite tough for Norsca to, catch up since Pistoliers are very good skirmish cavalry. It seems like Norsca does have some skirmishing capacity of their own. They have 4 units of Marauder Horsemen. For the front line of Norsca, we have some Marauders. Yep, just some chevroned up Marauders to make up the front line. They are backed up, however, by 3 units of Skinwolves. We also have some of the Beasts of Tashnar, the Regiment of Renowned Norscan Warhounds, and some Norscan Ice Wolves bringing their slow mechanic, their Frostbite mechanic, I believe. Yep, minus 36% speed. So these guys are actually really valuable in the skirmish fight, since they can, if they manage to catch up to, say, Pistoliers, they'll give them a huge slowing debuff, which allows Skinwolves to then be able to catch up to them. But due to the fact that Empire does have a sizable amount of cavalry nearby in the form of Knights of the Blazing Sun and Karl Franz in the skies, that might not be the best idea. It is a possibility, but not sure if that will happen in this matchup. We also have Wulfric the Wanderer on his Mammoth. Let's see what he's bringing. So we have Sea Fang, Fight or Die, and Hunter of Champions. We also have a Fimir Balefiend of Shadows, probably bringing Pendulum. Yeah, so Pendulum, and let's quickly pull up the last spell. So we have Melkot's Mystifying Miasma and a Pendulum, along with Scroll of Shielding, bringing some damage resistance to any unit it is imbued on. And with that, let's get into this battle. So initially, the skirmishing phase is going to be relatively equal, though the Empire does have a sizable force of cavalry nearby. If they choose, they could try and chase these Marauder Horsemen, but otherwise the skirmishing fight should be relatively equal. 4 units of Pistoliers against 4 units of Marauder Horsemen. Some fire also coming into Karl Franz himself. That's probably a good target. Karl Franz is a pretty large target. He's pretty hard to miss, so those Marauder Horsemen with considerable fire can lower the HP of Karl Franz, but again, he is one tough dude to take down, so you're going to need a lot more than Javelin fire from those Marauders. We have some Knights of the Blazing Sun potentially setting up for a charge into the flanks of Marauders, but some Skinwolves along with Marauder Horsemen do realize that the Knights of the Blazing Sun are ready for a charge, and they do react and screen them out. Yeah, seems like Marauder Horsemen are getting the better of the trade so far, though nothing sizable has really happened yet, so nothing that will be deciding the outcome of the battle yet. Norsca doing a good job of keeping their forces tightly compact, not allowing for the Knights of the Blazing Sun to get charges on units that they deem to be sort of out of formation and easy to destroy with a quick charge. The Pistoliers not getting any chances to fire in at the backlines of Norsca. They're really resigned to the fact that they have to shoot these Marauders, and anytime they try to get any closer, they will be shot with a bunch of Javelin fire from the Marauder Horsemen. Their ideal target, I would say, would be Wolfric's. It's very hard to miss a mammoth this big, but of course when you have so many Marauder Horsemen screening them out, Empire doesn't really get everything they want. And now the front lines will be engaging as the Marauders charge into the lines of Spearmen and Swordsmen. Of course, Wolfric will have no trouble at all destroying the front lines of Empire, and a huge Sea Fang going through some Swordsmen along with some Spearmen with shields. That was a wonderful Sea Fang actually. Looks like I missed a Pendulum as well, going through some more Spearmen, doing less damage than the Sea Fang, but that Sea Fang almost got this one unit of Swordsmen routed off the field. Some Knights of the Blazing Sun attempting to screen out a lot of these Marauder Horsemen, and they might catch a few models due to their charge bonus. Nope. The Marauder Horsemen just choose to engage, and a rear charge from a second unit of Marauder Horsemen along with a bunch of the Norscan mobility will be knocking these guys out of the fight. So a great play from Norsca. Unfortunately, a lot of the Marauders are not ideal combatants against the steady front line of the Empire, and so they will be routing relatively quickly, especially with some rear charges from the Knights. But still, the greatest threat, Wolfric the Wanderer, still remains on the field. Another great Pendulum, destroying the lines of Spearmen and catching a couple of those Pistoliers currently sitting at about half HP, and they have expended most of their ammunition, unfortunately not into the ideal target, which would be Wolfric. Karl Franz does get caught in the midst of a lot of these Norscan Warhounds and does get the Frostbite effect, but he does manage to terrify them off, and so he will be getting back into the skies really quickly. I think the big threat for Norsca here, of course, is Karl Franz along with those Demigryph Knights. The Demigryph Knights are mostly shut down, seems like Skinwolf will do the trick, but Karl Franz will probably be able to outduel Wolfric the Wanderer. He really needs his Skinwolf support to surround him at all times and not allow Karl Franz to get his charges off. But otherwise, it seems like Norsca is shoring up their forces. The main threat for the Empire, of course, other than Karl Franz, are the lines of Pistoliers that are getting tons of damage into the Great Mammoth. And Karl Franz at his healing cap, currently taking shots into Wolfric. Let's see his HP go down. A Pendulum going down seems like it did more friendly damage than damage against the forces of the Empire. Maybe going through a couple Spearmen, but unfortunately kind of hurt the Norscans more than the Empire. And Karl Franz getting a ton of hits into Wolfric the Wanderer. Looks like he does have Hunter and Champions popped on him, so Wolfric should be dealing some damage in return. But Karl Franz is just a raid boss, so tough to take down. And the Withering Pistolier Fire as well. Man, just doing so much damage to Wolfric the Wanderer. He still has a sizable amount of HP left, 2,500. But if Karl Franz can get a couple cycle charges off, it may look like the Norscan leadership will be taking a fall. Unfortunately, there are no Skinwolves to protect him, as Karl Franz does go for a missed charge. And potentially, yeah, so it does get a couple hits into the back of Wolfric. Let's see how much damage he'll be doing. Wolfric is wavering, currently sitting at 1600 HP. A beautiful Pendulum going through a lot of these Pistoliers. And Karl Franz does get caught in the midst of Skinwolves. Skinwolves are not immune to terror, so they will be terrified pretty quickly, but as long as Wolfric isn't taking hits from the Great Emperor, all is good for Norsca. The rest of the battle is going heavily in favor of the Norscan forces, though it does, surprisingly, seems like the balance of power is in favor of the Emperor. I'm just guessing probably due to Karl Franz versus how low Wolfric is, but the rest of the infantry fight has gone heavily in the favor of Norsca, and Karl Franz coming in for a charge on Wolfric the Wanderer. This will likely be the fight that determines the outcome of this battle. Wolfric currently sitting at 600 HP and is currently routing from the field. That is huge. The Norscans take a large leadership hit, while Karl Franz still remains healthy and able to fight. And unfortunately, there's not much left on the Norscan forces that is immune to terror. And so these Skinwolves, even though they are a powerful tool, and there are a large number of them, seems like we have 3 units of Skinwolves still available, they will probably be routed due to terror just from fighting Karl Franz. But we'll see, Norsca still does have a sizable force left on the field. As you can see, the balance of power has now gone heavily in the Empire's favor as Wolfric has fallen. his mammoth disappeared. So Karl Franz currently fighting the likes of some skin wolves. They probably will be terrified off, but they are doing a decent amount of damage to Karl Franz. Wow. So Norsca making a bit of a comeback on the balance of power. You can see how quickly it turned to being almost equal at this point. Karl Franz has taken so much damage from those skin wolves. And there's still 2-3 units of them left, and if Karl Franz doesn't shut those guys down immediately, their regeneration may prove too much for the Great Emperor to deal with. There are still some Marauder Horsemen with ammunition left, and they are expending it into Karl Franz, which is a great choice. And as long as these skin wolves are not in melee, not fighting anything, they will not be losing HP and their regeneration will be kicking in. Seems like a gooning attempt was abandoned against the Fimir Balefiend, and now the Jade Wizard is coming in to fight. Fimir Balefiend should easily beat this Jade Wizard, probably should have stayed in that fight, and the blob would have surrounded him, but unfortunately Karl Franz does come in and knock him out of the fight. But now Karl Franz is susceptible to being knocked out of the fight himself. He does have Galmaraz and Reichland Runefang popped on him, so he will be doing quite a bit of damage to those skin wolves, but the question is, will it be enough? Will it be enough to knock out those skin wolves before they do the same to him? And now it's just 2 units of skin wolves, one broken skin wolf, fighting the Emperor of the Empire. 1 unit is now terrified, 2 units are terrified, and Karl Franz has managed to do it. What a beast. Those skin wolves likely will be returning once the terror wears off, but once again, Karl Franz is going to be right there to imbue them back with terror. He is sitting at a very low HP of 829, so could those remaining skin wolves potentially win the fight? They're coming in for another charge. If they could get a rear charge, that might be enough, honestly. It seems like they will be getting a rear charge. What is he sitting at? Nope, not looking at the Jade Wizard. 700 HP. Now Karl Franz turns and fights, and it looks like the terror might be kicking in again. This is a very, very close fight. A second unit of skin wolves returning as well. 536 HP, and he is still steady. Not taking any leadership hits at all. Still sitting at 20 leadership at 315 HP. The second unit of skin wolves is completely shattered, and seems like the final effort of Norsca is coming as these skin wolves attempt to catch Karl Franz before he gets into the skies, but unfortunately he does get back and manages to shatter the last unit of skin wolves. And looks like with most of these skin wolves shattered, Norsca doesn't really have much of a chance anymore. Karl Franz will be able to easily terrify and rout the Norscan armies. Ooh, one has returned that could potentially win the game. Wow, this is really, really close. Yep, terrified. These guys are going to be terrified immediately as well. Nope, Karl Franz does disengage, so they might get a couple hits off into the Jade Wizard. And looks like army losses does take the Norscan forces. Wow, that was a very, very close fight. Great game to both Nameless Order and Vicious Satsuma, so looks like I did get the names right. Let's check out how each unit did. So for the Empire, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, one of the units was knocked out relatively quickly into the fight. I'd say they were a little overextended in the beginning of the fight, but looking at their kill count, seems like they did do a decent amount of damage by themselves. Their ideal target would of course be those skin wolves, but that is a very tall order when you have so many supporting elements in the Norscan army. And overall, the Empire army performed rather admirably. Of course, you cannot expect the infantry to do much against Wulfric the Wanderer on his mammoth, but everyone really played their part, especially these Demigryph Knights with halberds. It seems like they really held up the blob for a long time, though it doesn't really show on their kill count. They were quite important in this battle. And on the Norscan side of things, so my Norscan build versus the Empire usually includes a unit of Fimir warriors as well. I don't exactly remember if they're immune to terror, but they definitely do have higher leadership than skin wolves, and so they're more of like an anchor piece, so that when the skin wolves start routing due to their rather low leadership, the Fimir warriors will remain there, and they can take a withering from, say, Pistolier, since they do have missile resist. So I like to bring a unit of Fimir warriors alongside skin wolves, just to be an anchor piece to hold the line, while the Skin Wolves may initially rout, regen, and return to the fight. But still very, very well played from Vicious Satsuma. Great scrap right till the end. And overall, his army performed admirably as well. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this fight. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you guys in the next one.